The silver ship descended through Earth's atmosphere without a sound. It was twice the size of a football field and shaped like a perfect disc. No heat signatures, no sonic boom, nothing that human technology could explain. It hovered 300 feet above the United Nations headquarters in New York City. The world watched in stunned silence. Military jets kept their distance as ordered. Weapons remained aimed but unused. Dr. Laura Wright stood among the group of 20 humans chosen to make first contact. Her hands trembled slightly, despite her best efforts to appear calm. Next to her, Captain Ethan Martinez kept his eyes fixed on the ship, his military training evident in his rigid posture. "Do you think they're friendly?" Laura whispered. Ethan shrugged. "If they wanted us dead, we'd be dead already." A beam of blue light shot down from the center of the craft. Within the light, 3 figures appeared. They floated gently to the ground as the light faded. The aliens stood about 7 feet tall with slim bodies covered in what looked like silver-blue scales. Their heads were slightly larger than human proportions, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. They had no visible nose, just small slits, and their mouths were thin lines that didn't move when they spoke. "We are the representatives of the Galactic Confederation," said the tallest alien, its voice somehow appearing directly in everyone's minds. "I am Ambassador Zix Lorn of the Athrani. We have been observing your planet for 63 of your years." Samantha Powell, the UN Secretary General's special representative, stepped forward. She was a composed woman in her 50s with short gray hair and steady hands. "On behalf of Earth, we welcome you. We are honored by your presence." The alien tilted its head. "Your species has advanced quickly, perhaps too quickly." The assembled humans exchanged nervous glances. Kevin Richardson, an engineer known for his brilliant but often dangerous innovations, whispered to Laura, "That doesn't sound promising." The aliens were escorted into the UN building, where a special meeting room had been prepared. The human delegation consisted of scientists, military personnel, and political leaders from around the world. Ambassador Zix Lorn explained that the Confederation included over 300 intelligent species from across the galaxy. They had strict rules about which planets could join. "We have watched your wars, your environmental damage, your chaotic development," said the ambassador. Many in the Confederation questioned whether humans were ready for contact. Samantha kept her diplomatic smile. "We have made mistakes, yes, but we have also created art, music, and literature. We've developed medicine that has saved billions of lives. We've begun to address our environmental problems." "Your achievements are not in question," said a smaller alien, who introduced itself as Science Director Krillnex. "It is your methods that concern us." For the next 3 hours, the aliens described the Confederation's approach to galactic civilization. They had existed for over 20,000 years without major conflicts. Every decision was made through careful analysis of risks and benefits. New technologies were tested for centuries before widespread use. "You humans," said Ambassador Zix Lorn, "develop technologies before understanding their full implications. You take risks with little calculation." Kevin Richardson cleared his throat. "With respect, Ambassador, sometimes the greatest discoveries come from taking chances." The ambassador's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "We have reviewed your application to join the Confederation." The humans looked confused. Captain Martinez spoke up. "Application? We never submitted an application. Your radio signals, internet transmissions, and space probes are considered an implicit application," explained the third alien, who had not yet spoken. "We receive many such unintentional applications from developing worlds." The room fell silent, as the aliens consulted among themselves through some form of silent communication. The humans waited anxiously. Finally, Ambassador Zix Lorn addressed them again. "The Confederation has decided to grant Earth provisional membership status. A probationary period of 5 years will determine if full membership is warranted." Relief spread through the human delegation. Samantha Powell stepped forward to express gratitude, but the ambassador continued. "However, we have serious reservations. Your species consistently asks, 'Why not?' instead of 'Why?' when approaching problems. The alien's head tilted slightly. What could possibly go wrong with such thinking? The question hung in the air. The humans recognized it wasn't really a question at all, but a warning. Captain Martinez smiled slightly. With respect, Ambassador, sometimes asking, what could go wrong is exactly what leads to our greatest successes. Dr. Laura Wright nodded. We call it calculated risk. Without it, we might still be living in caves. The aliens didn't respond immediately. Their scaled skin shifted colors slightly, moving from silver blue to a deeper navy. We will see, said Ambassador Zixlorn finally. A delegation from Earth will be invited to visit Centauri Prime, our administrative hub. There, you will learn our ways and we will observe yours. After the meeting, the human team gathered in a secure room to discuss what had happened. They think we're reckless children, said Kevin, pacing the room. Maybe we are, compared to them, Laura replied. A civilization that's existed peacefully for 20,000 years? We can't even go a decade without a major conflict. Samantha Powell raised her hand for quiet. What matters is that we have an opportunity. Provisional membership is better than no membership at all. Captain Martinez leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Did anyone else notice how they keep bringing up risk assessment? These aliens are scared of their own shadows. Or they're just careful, said Laura. There's wisdom in caution, Kevin laughed. There's also stagnation in too much caution. Did you hear how they test new technologies for centuries? No wonder they were shocked by our progress. The discussion continued late into the night. The team selected for the visit to Centauri Prime would include Dr. Wright, Captain Martinez, Kevin Richardson, and several others with specialized knowledge that might be useful. As they finally prepared to leave, Laura pulled Samantha aside. That question the ambassador asked, about what could go wrong. Do you think it was a threat? Samantha considered this. Not a threat, a genuine concern. They've been watching us for decades, seeing our wars, our environmental disasters, our close calls with nuclear weapons. They're afraid of what humans might do to their carefully ordered galaxy. Laura nodded slowly. Then we'll just have to show them what humans can do when we put our minds to it. Exactly, said Samantha. Let's show them that sometimes asking what could go wrong is the beginning of asking what could go right. The silver ship remained hovering above New York for 3 more days. Then, without warning or sound, it rose steadily until it disappeared from sight. The countdown to humanity's trial period had begun. 6 months had passed since the first contact. The human delegation ship approached Centauri Prime, a massive space station that served as the headquarters for the Galactic Confederation. The station looked like a giant silver wheel with spokes, connecting to a central hub. Hundreds of ships from different worlds moved around it like bees around a hive. Dr. Laura Wright pressed her face against the viewport. It's beautiful, she whispered. Captain Ethan Martinez stood beside her, arms crossed. And big. Must be at least 50 miles across. 73 of your miles, corrected Alan Garcia, the team's language expert. At 29, he was the youngest member of the Earth delegation. The guide they sent says it houses representatives from all 300 member species. The human ship docked with surprising smoothness. When the airlock opened, 3 Athrani waited for them, including Ambassador Zixlorn. Welcome to Centauri Prime, the ambassador said, the words appearing in their minds rather than being spoken aloud. Your journey was without incident? Perfectly smooth, said Olivia Morris, the team's cultural expert. She was a tall woman, with dark skin and a wide smile. Your navigation system guided us perfectly. The humans followed the aliens through wide corridors. Other alien species moved around them, some walking on many legs, others floating, and some rolling on strange wheel-like limbs. Every alien they passed turned to stare at the humans. You are objects of great curiosity, explained Ambassador Zixlorn. Many species believed we should not have contacted Earth yet. Daniel Clark, the security officer, kept one hand near his side where his weapon would normally be. Though they had come unarmed as required, old habits died hard. Why is that? He asked. Your species developed spaceflight only 70 years ago. Most species take at least 300 years to move from basic flight to orbit. Your rapid development is concerning to some. The humans were shown to their quarters, a set of rooms designed to mimic Earth conditions as closely as possible. The beds were too large, the chairs too high, but it was a thoughtful attempt. Rest today, said the ambassador. Tomorrow you will tour our research facility. It is our pride. After the aliens left, Kevin Richardson flopped onto a couch that was nearly big enough to be a bed for him. Did anyone else notice how everything here feels old? Advanced but old? Laura nodded. They've had thousands of years of stable development. We've had a few hundred years of chaotic innovation. Well, they invited us here to learn about us, said Ethan. Let's show them what humans can do. The next day, the aliens led them to the research center, a massive structure attached to the outer ring of the station. Inside, hundreds of aliens worked at strange devices and displays that the humans couldn't begin to understand. Science Director Krill Nex met them at the entrance. This facility houses our most important scientific work. Some projects have been ongoing for over 500 years. Kevin's eyes widened. 500 years on the same project? Continuity ensures safety, replied the science director. Quick changes lead to mistakes. The tour continued through various laboratories until they reached a large chamber with a complicated machine in its center. The device had multiple rings spinning around a central point where energy crackled and sparked. This is our wormhole stabilization project, explained Krill Nex. We have been attempting to create stable wormholes for transportation between distant points. Laura stepped closer, fascinated. How long have you been working on this? 42 standard years, said the science director. Progress is slow but steady. Kevin walked around the device, eyes narrowed in concentration. What's the problem you're trying to solve? The science director hesitated. The energy containment fails after 8.4 seconds. We cannot extend stability beyond that point. May I see the data? Kevin asked. The aliens looked at each other, clearly uncomfortable. Finally, Ambassador Zix Lorne nodded. You may observe, but not interfere. For the rest of the day, the humans watched the aliens work. Each test of the wormhole device ended the same way. Energy would build, a small opening would form between 2 points in space, and then it would collapse in exactly 8.4 seconds. After the fifth test, Kevin could no longer contain himself. I think I see the problem, he said, stepping forward. This is highly irregular, protested an alien scientist. The protocols do not allow for untrained observation. Just let me try something, Kevin insisted. What could go wrong? The aliens visibly recoiled at the phrase. Ambassador Zix Lorne's scales shifted to a pale blue color. That question has led to the destruction of entire civilizations. Laura stepped between them. What Kevin means is that observation without testing leads to stagnation. Sometimes you need to try a different approach. After much discussion among themselves, the aliens reluctantly agreed to let Kevin attempt a solution. They provided him with tools and materials, though they insisted he work under strict supervision. Kevin studied the device for an hour, then began making adjustments. The alien scientists watched in horror as he bypassed safety systems and rerouted power connections. This is reckless, one alien said. He has no understanding of the fundamental principles. Sometimes understanding comes through doing, Olivia replied. It's how humans learn best. When Kevin finished his modifications, he stepped back. Ready to test? The alien scientists moved to safe positions behind shields. The device powered up, rings spinning faster than before. Energy crackled. At the center point, a small opening appeared, a wormhole barely the size of a coin. 1 second passed. Then 5. Then 10. The aliens began murmuring among themselves. 15 seconds. 17 seconds. Then with a pop and a shower of sparks, the wormhole collapsed. The room fell silent. 17.3 seconds, said Science Director Krill Nex, sounding stunned. How did you achieve this? Kevin shrugged. I noticed you were trying to control every aspect of the wormhole formation. Sometimes you need to let natural forces do some of the work. I reduced the control parameters by about 30%. But that increases unpredictability, protested an alien scientist. Exactly, said Kevin with a grin. Sometimes a little chaos is exactly what you need. The aliens looked at the humans with new expressions, part horror, part fascination. A senior alien administrator who had been watching from the back of the room approached Ambassador Zix Lorne. What could go wrong, indeed? The administrator said quietly. Now we begin to understand. As they left the research center that evening, Laura noticed the aliens were treating them differently. There was more distance, but also something like respect. I think we made an impression today, she said to the others. Ethan nodded. Not sure if it was a good one or a bad one. Neither, said Olivia. Just different. They've been doing things their way for thousands of years. We just showed them there might be another way. Alan smiled. And this is just day one. That night, as the humans slept, the Confederation Council held an emergency meeting to discuss what they had witnessed. The human approach was dangerous, unpredictable, and undeniably effective. Perhaps there was more to learn from these chaotic newcomers than they had initially thought. A year had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Confederation. Humans had begun to spread throughout the galaxy, taking positions on trading vessels, research stations, and diplomatic missions. Their reputation grew quickly. They were seen as strange, unpredictable, but undeniably useful in a crisis. Dr. Laura Wright now led the Earth Science Division on Centauri Prime. She had just finished a meeting when her communication device beeped urgently. The small silver disc projected the face of Captain Ethan Martinez, now Admiral of Earth's first deep space vessel. Laura, we have an emergency, Ethan said, his face grim. Proxima Station is in trouble, bad trouble. Laura felt her heart skip, a beat. Proxima Station was one of the largest habitats in the Confederation, home to over 40,000 beings from dozens of species. What happened? Some kind of failure in their antimatter containment system. The Confederation Council just called an emergency session. 30 minutes later, Laura sat in the council chamber with representatives from 20 major species. Ambassador Zix Lorne stood at the center, explaining the situation. Proxima Station reports cascading failures in all containment fields. Complete. Breakdown is expected within 12 hours. At that point, the antimatter will contact normal matter and... The ambassador didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what would happen. An explosion that would vaporize the station and everything for thousands of miles around it. What about evacuation? Asked Laura. A tall, thin alien with 6 arms pulled up a projection. We can dispatch all available ships in the sector. Current models suggest we can evacuate approximately 30% of the population before containment fails. The room erupted in discussion. 30% meant over 28,000 deaths. The Confederation representatives debated which species should be saved first, which knowledge banks were most valuable, which artifacts most irreplaceable. Laura exchanged a glance with Ethan. He nodded slightly and stood up. Earth has a ship that might help, he said. The room fell silent. The daring discovery. It has our new experimental drive. It could reach Proxima Station in 2 hours. A single ship cannot evacuate 40,000 beings, said Science Director Krillnex. We're not talking about evacuation, Ethan replied. We're talking about fixing the problem. The alien stared at him. Ambassador Zixalorn's scales shifted to a dark blue. Admiral Martinez, the containment system is beyond repair. The Proxima. Engineers have confirmed this. With respect, Ambassador, humans have a history of fixing things that are supposedly beyond repair. After heated debate, the Council agreed to let the Earthship try, but only because they had no better options. The daring discovery launched immediately with a crew of Earth's best engineers and scientists. Commander Natalie Jackson sat in the captain's chair. At 47, she had decades of experience handling emergencies. Time to Proxima Station? She asked. 1 hour, 53 minutes, replied the navigator. Frank Williams, the ship's engineering specialist, reviewed the data on the failing station. This doesn't look good. The antimatter containment is degrading fast. Dr. Lisa Reynolds, a physicist with wild red hair and intense eyes, nodded. But there's a pattern to the failure. Look at the oscillation in the field strength. The ship pushed its experimental drive to the limit. When they arrived at Proxima Station, they found chaos. Evacuation ships were docking and leaving as quickly as possible. Inside the station, people rushed through corridors carrying whatever they could. The station's chief engineer, a squid-like alien named Vortek, met them at the docking bay. "You waste your time and ours," it said through a translator. "The containment system is beyond saving. The field strength is down to 17% and falling." Commander Jackson didn't argue. "Take us to the containment chamber." The antimatter containment room was enormous, with equipment filling a space the size of a football field. In the center, behind multiple force fields, hovered a small amount of antimatter, enough to power the station for decades, or destroy it completely. "Doctor." Reynolds studied the readings on the control panels. "The primary containment field is collapsing because of feedback from the secondary and tertiary systems. They're fighting each other." Frank ran his hands over the controls. These systems were never designed to work together. They've been adding layers of containment for centuries without properly integrating them. "Can we fix it?" asked Commander Jackson. Lisa bit her lip. "Not in the traditional way, but I have an idea." She explained quickly, drawing diagrams on a datapad. "We could trigger a controlled antimatter reaction to reset the field harmonics." The alien engineers who had stayed behind listened in horror. "That would require releasing some of the antimatter intentionally," one said. "The risk is unacceptable." "The simulation models predict a 78.3% chance of accelerated destruction," added another. "And a 21.7% chance of saving everyone," Lisa countered. "Those odds are better than what you have now." Commander Jackson looked at the aliens. "You asked what could go wrong when humans joined the Confederation. Well, here's what can go right. We try impossible things sometimes, and sometimes it works." With evacuation continuing and no better options, the alien engineers reluctantly agreed to the plan. Lisa and Frank worked feverishly, reconfiguring equipment and writing new control programs. The station's systems weren't designed for what they were attempting, so they had to improvise. "Ready," Lisa said finally. "On your command." "Commander." Jackson took a deep breath. "Do it." Lisa pressed the control. A tiny amount of antimatter was released from containment. For a terrifying moment, energy levels spiked dangerously high. Warning alarms blared throughout the station. Then, as Lisa had predicted, the reaction created a harmonic wave that synchronized the containment fields. The levels began to stabilize. "It's working," Frank whispered. The alien engineers watched, in disbelief as the containment field strength rose back to safe levels. After 30 tense minutes, the crisis was over. Proxima Station was saved. News spread quickly through the evacuation fleet. Ships turned around, bringing people back to their homes. The Confederation Council convened an emergency session to hear what had happened. When Commander Jackson finished explaining how they had saved the station, the council chamber fell silent. Finally, the senior Confederation observer stood up. "When you humans ask what could go wrong, we never considered asking what could go right," he said. "Perhaps there is wisdom in your approach after all." As the Earth crew prepared to return home, Vortek approached them. "I did not believe your plan would work," the alien admitted. "I was wrong. That's the thing about humans," Commander Jackson replied with a smile. "We're very good at proving people wrong." Back on Centauri Prime, Ambassador Zixalorn reviewed the report from Proxima Station. The humans had saved 40,000 lives by doing exactly what the Confederation had feared, taking a dangerous risk. It was time to reconsider what humanity might bring to the galaxy. 2 years into humanity's membership in the Galactic Confederation, the emergency alarms rang through Centauri Prime. It wasn't a drill. Representatives from all member species rushed to the Grand Council chamber. Something terrible was happening. Admiral Ethan Martinez entered the chamber with Dr. Laura Wright and saw fear on alien faces of all shapes and sizes. In the center of the room, a holographic display showed multiple star systems blinking red. Ambassador Zix Lorne stood at the main podium. The reports are confirmed. The Void Swarm has returned. A murmur of dread passed through the chamber. Laura leaned toward Ethan. What's the Void Swarm? Before he could ask, Science Director Krillnex took the podium. For those unfamiliar, the Void Swarm is a collective entity composed of quantum phase beings. They exist partially outside normal space-time. The display changed to show strange, shifting clouds of darkness moving between stars. They consume energy at all levels, including the energy that binds matter together. When they pass through a system, they leave nothing behind. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. How do we fight them? Asked Ethan. We cannot, replied the science director. Our weapons pass through them harmlessly. They exist in a quantum state that makes them nearly untouchable. The Confederation encountered them 8,000 years ago, added Ambassador Zix Lorne. Only a natural shift in their migration pattern saved us. They moved beyond our territory. And now they're back, said Laura. Yes. Our outer colonies have already been lost. Based on their speed and direction, they will consume the entire Confederation within 8 standard years. The Council erupted in panicked discussion. Plans for evacuation were proposed, but there was nowhere to go. The Void Swarm was consuming space in all directions. The Earth delegation requested time to study the problem. Admiral Susan Cooper, a straight-talking woman in her 50s, led the team. With her were Dr. Greg Morris, a quantum physicist, Ryan Bennett, an AI specialist, and Nicole Patel, who studied non-physical life forms. For 3 days, the humans reviewed all available data on the Void Swarm, while the Confederation Council debated evacuation priorities. On the 4th day, Admiral Cooper requested to address the Council. We believe we have a solution, she said, standing before the assembled representatives. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was perfectly pressed despite days without sleep. Our solution? Asked Ambassador Zix Lorne. The greatest minds of 300 species have found no answer. Sometimes a fresh perspective helps, Susan replied. Dr. Morris will explain. Greg stepped forward. He was tall, with curly brown hair and glasses that he constantly adjusted when nervous. The Void Swarm exists in a quantum phase state, which is why conventional weapons pass through them. But their quantum nature is also their weakness. He displayed diagrams showing the structure of the swarm entities. They remain in a superposition state, essentially existing in multiple places and phases simultaneously. This is what makes them untouchable. We are aware of this, said Science Director Krillnex. It is why they cannot be defeated. Actually, Greg continued, in quantum mechanics, there's something called the observer effect. When a quantum system is observed, it collapses into a single state. Ryan Bennett joined Greg at the podium. We propose creating massive arrays of modified sensors, but instead of trying to detect the swarm, we design them to force the swarm into a fixed reference frame through observation. The alien representatives looked confused. Ambassador Zix Lorne's scales shifted to a doubtful purple color. You want to defeat an existential threat with philosophy? Quantum mechanics isn't philosophy, Greg explained. It's the way reality works whether you believe in it or not. The act of measurement affects the thing being measured at the quantum level. Nicole Patel stepped forward. Think of it this way. The swarm is like a ghost that can walk through walls because it's not fully in our reality. We want to force it to become solid. The council debated for hours. Many dismissed the human plan as absurd. Others pointed out they had no better options. The simulation models give this plan a 97.8% chance of failure, said one alien scientist. Which means there's a 2.2% chance of success, Susan countered. That's better than zero. Finally, with great reluctance, the council approved the plan with minimal resources. Few believed it would work. For the next month, humans led teams constructing massive sensor arrays on the edge of Confederation space, directly in the swarm's path. The technology was cobbled together from different species sensor systems, modified, according to Greg's specifications. "This shouldn't work," said an alien engineer as they activated the first array. "You cannot fight quantum physics with observation. Actually, that's exactly how quantum physics works," Greg replied with a small smile. As the void swarm approached, the arrays powered up. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The cloud of darkness continued its advance, consuming a small moon as it came. Then slowly something changed. The edges of the swarm began to solidify, becoming visible even to normal sensors. Parts of it flickered in and out of existence as the quantum state collapsed. "It's working!" Ryan shouted, watching the readings. "They're being forced into a fixed state." As more of the swarm was pulled into normal space-time, Confederation weapons that had once passed harmlessly through them now made contact. The defense fleet opened fire, and for the first time the void swarm began to retreat. Within days the tide had turned. The swarm, unable to maintain its quantum advantage, withdrew from Confederation space altogether. In the council chamber, Admiral Cooper presented the final report. "The threat has been neutralized. The void swarm has retreated beyond our sensor range and continues to move away." The council was stunned into silence. Finally, the Confederation Council leader approached Admiral Cooper. "When you proposed this plan, surely you must have asked yourself, what could go wrong?" Susan smiled. "Of course we did. We just weren't paralyzed by the question." As the human team left the chamber, Ambassador Zix Lorne stopped them. "Your species continues to surprise. You take risks that seem foolish yet achieve results that seemed impossible." "That's kind of our thing," said Greg with a shrug. The news spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Humans, the newest and least advanced members of the Confederation, had saved everyone from a threat that had been considered unstoppable. Laura met Ethan in the Earth Embassy later that evening. "Did you hear? The Council is creating a special position for humans in the Confederation defense structure." Ethan nodded. "They're starting to understand. Sometimes the biggest risk is taking no risk at all. And sometimes," Laura added, "asking what could go wrong is the first step to figuring out what could go right instead." 5 years had passed since first contact. The relationship between humans and the Galactic Confederation had changed dramatically. What began with concern and caution had evolved into respect and even admiration. New Geneva, Switzerland, sparkled under a clear blue sky. The city had been chosen as the site for the first permanent Confederation embassy on Earth. Today was the grand opening ceremony. Dr. Laura Wright adjusted her formal suit as she waited backstage. Now the head of the Interspecies Scientific Exchange, she had helped create countless breakthroughs by bringing human creativity together with alien knowledge. "Nervous?" asked a familiar voice. Laura turned to see Admiral Ethan Martinez. His uniform now carried the combined insignia of Earth Forces and the Confederation Defense Command. "A little," she admitted. 5 years ago, they thought we were too reckless to join their club. Now they're building embassies here." "Things change," said Ethan with a smile. "We change them." Samantha Powell joined them, looking elegant in her diplomatic attire. As Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Confederation, she had navigated countless cultural misunderstandings and built genuine trust between species. "The delegates are ready," she said. "Ambassador Zix Lorne wants to speak with us before the ceremony." They found the Athrani ambassador in a quiet room away from the crowds. In 5 years, they had learned to read the subtle color changes in the alien scales. Today, they showed excitement and pride. "My friends," said Zix Lorne, the mental voice now familiar and warm, "today marks a significant milestone, not just for Earth, but for the entire Confederation." "It's been quite a journey," said Samantha. "Indeed. When I first came to your world, I asked what could go wrong by admitting humans to the Confederation. It was not truly a question, but a warning." Laura nodded. "We could tell." "I was wrong," said the ambassador, scales shifting to a deep blue of sincerity. "The question should have been, what could go right?" The ceremony began an hour later. Thousands of people gathered in the plaza before the new embassy building. Its architecture combined elements from dozens of Confederation worlds with human designs. Solar panels shaped like leaves mixed with crystalline structures and flowing metallic forms. On the stage sat representatives from 30 major Confederation species, alongside human leaders from around the world. Kevin Richardson was there too, now the lead engineer for the Joint Earth Confederation Technology Exchange. Ambassador Zix Lorne stepped to the podium first. Cameras broadcasted the moment to billions of humans and aliens across many worlds. 5 years ago, I came to Earth with doubts and concerns, the ambassador began. We observed humanity's rapid development with caution. You moved too quickly. You took too many risks. You asked why not instead of why. The crowd listened intently as the alien continued. We asked what could go wrong, as a caution against humanity's chaotic methods. We never imagined that chaos would be precisely what our ordered universe needed. The ambassador described how humans had revolutionized Confederation science by challenging thousand-year-old assumptions. How human doctors had discovered cures by trying approaches alien medicine considered too risky. How human diplomats solved ancient conflicts by looking at problems from entirely new angles. The universe is not orderly, said Zix Lorne. It is chaotic, unpredictable, and wild. For 20,000 years, we tried to impose order through careful planning and risk avoidance. But sometimes, the best response to chaos is not perfect order, but creative adaptation. The ambassador announced a new Confederation initiative, the Human Perspective Program. Representatives from every species would spend time on Earth learning to approach problems with human creativity and controlled risk-taking. When Samantha Powell took the podium, she spoke of humanity's own journey. We've learned as much from the Confederation as you've learned from us, she said. We've gained the wisdom of caution to balance our impulse for action. Together, we're stronger than either of us alone. The highlight of the ceremony came with the unveiling of a monument in the center of the embassy plaza. It was a simple sphere of polished stone with inscriptions in all Confederation languages plus Earth's major languages. Laura and Ethan stood together as the coverings were removed. The English inscription read, "What could go wrong? Let's find out together." Not exactly what I expected 5 years ago, Laura said quietly. Me neither, replied Ethan. I thought they'd never understand us. After the ceremony, a reception brought together humans and aliens in celebration. Kevin Richardson found himself talking with Science Director Krill Nex, who now led the Confederation's new Rapid Innovation Division. Did you ever imagine we'd get here? Kevin asked. Never, admitted the alien. When you modified our wormhole device using methods we considered reckless, I was certain you would destroy it. But it worked. It worked, agreed Krill Nex. That was when I began to understand. Humans don't take risks because you don't care about consequences. You take risks because you see possibilities we miss. 6 months later, the first class of the Confederation Academy on Mars began their training. Cadets from dozens of species lived and studied alongside humans, learning to combine the best of all approaches. In a large classroom overlooking the Martian landscape, Laura stood before the diverse group of students. Some had tentacles, others wings, some floated above their seats while others needed special environmental suits. Today we're going to learn about a uniquely human concept, she began, the calculated gamble. Sometimes asking what could go wrong is exactly the right place to start. A young Athrani raised a limb. Dr. Wright, is it true that Ambassador Zix Lorne originally used that phrase as a warning against humans joining the Confederation? Laura smiled. Yes, that's true. It was meant to highlight the danger of our approach. Yet now it's carved on the monument at the embassy, said the student, because we showed them that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from being willing to try something that might fail. When you ask what could go wrong, you're taking the first step toward asking how do we manage those risks. As she looked out at the eager faces of the next generation, Laura felt a profound sense of pride. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not by becoming more like the aliens, but by helping them become a little more like humans. Outside the classroom window, Earth hung in the Martian sky, a small blue dot that had changed the course of galactic history by asking one simple question: what could go wrong?